You already know more than you realize. You just haven't learned how to read the signs yet. Every person leaves clues, and Nietzsche's 18 truths will show you how to spot them and understand what they really mean. This is the skill no one ever teaches you, but once you learn it, you can't unsee it. Now, this video isn't just a quick list or shallow advice. It's a full breakdown, split into 3 key parts, each one building on the last. If you skip around or miss a section, you'll miss the deeper meaning that ties it all together. So stick with me, because by the end of all 3 parts, you won't just understand people better, you'll understand yourself in a way you never saw coming. From a young age, we're taught to believe what people say. Words are like our social currency. But Nietzsche warned us, don't be fooled by language. People don't always speak from truth. They speak from fear, ego, and survival. What you see on the surface isn't the real person. It's their defense. Someone who seems overly nice might not be kind. They might just be scared of being rejected. The person who appears strong might actually be falling apart inside, hoping no one notices. And the trickiest part, most people don't even realize they're doing this. They're acting out roles they didn't choose. Their smiles, their tone, their opinions, all shaped by what once kept them safe. So don't assume they're hiding from you. They're often hiding from themselves. Nietzsche once said, "Every deep soul needs a mask." He didn't mean it as an insult. It was a warning. Don't mistake the mask for the person underneath. Here's the truth no one tells you. People leak their real selves all the time. Not with words, but in the little cracks. In the way they glance away, laugh too long, or quickly change the topic when things get too real. Nietzsche's first psychological truth: everyone wears a mask, not to deceive, but to survive. People shape themselves into someone they think will be accepted. But no mask is perfect. It slips. And when it does, the truth shows in tension. Watch for what makes someone uncomfortable. That's usually where the real self starts to show. 2. What someone hates in others reveals what they're hiding in themselves. This is one of Nietzsche's sharpest insights: projection. If someone always mocks arrogance, chances are they feel insecure about their own worth. If they constantly point out liars, they may be hiding truths they haven't faced. Often, we hate in others what we refuse to admit in ourselves. So if you want to truly read someone, don't just watch what they praise. Pay attention to what they criticize and why. 3. Silence says more than words. Nietzsche didn't think truth came from talking. He saw language as a tool the crowd uses to avoid reality. So when someone pauses before answering, avoids certain topics, or gives short, practiced replies to deep questions, that silence speaks louder than anything they could say. If someone avoids being vulnerable, that tells you everything about what they fear. 4. Loud virtue is often hidden vanity. Be careful around people who constantly preach about being good or correct others all the time. Nietzsche called this the will to power wearing a moral mask. Sometimes people use morality to feel superior. The louder someone shouts their virtue, the more likely they're hiding something behind it. Real kindness doesn't need applause. 5. People don't lie to you first. They lie to themselves. This one shifts everything. The lies you hear, "I'm fine, I'm over it, I don't care," aren't meant to fool you. They're lies people have told themselves so often, they've come to believe them. Nietzsche saw self-deception not as evil, but as protection, a way to survive a painful world. So if someone's story doesn't add up, don't assume they're trying to fool you. They've likely been fooling themselves for much longer. And that's what helps you truly read them, because the gaps in their story often reveal the truth. 6. Where someone feels superior, they're often hiding inferiority. This is classic Nietzsche. He believed when someone acts superior, it's usually a cover for deep insecurity. If someone always brags about their success, they probably feel like they're not good enough. If they put others down casually, they may be scared of being invisible. True confidence doesn't need to prove itself, it just is. So when someone tries to dominate or control, look deeper. Behind that throne, you'll usually find a frightened child wearing a crown. Reading people isn't about judging them. It's about really seeing who they are underneath. When someone keeps cutting others off, it's not always because they're full of themselves. It might be because they're scared of being overlooked. When someone constantly posts about how happy they are, it could be a quiet cry for help. And when someone says, "I'm fine," but avoids your eyes, their body is telling the real story, not their words. These truths aren't for gaining the upper hand. They're for growing your empathy. Because the clearer you see someone, the harder it is to hate them. And that was Nietzsche's real message. He didn't want you to read people just to outsmart them. He wanted you to stop being fooled and start truly connecting. So if you've ever looked at someone and felt like you were only scratching the surface, if you've ever wished you could really understand what's behind their mask, leave a comment. Let's talk about those moments when someone told you everything without saying a word. And if this video changed how you see others, hit subscribe. There's more to come, and you'll want to watch the rest of Nietzsche's truths unfold. Noticing the mask is one thing, but seeing it crack, that's something else. If you've ever paid close attention, you've seen it. A flicker of discomfort when their ideas are questioned. A change in their voice when something hits too close. A forced laugh that doesn't match their words. These aren't slip-ups, they're clues. And once you learn what to look for, you'll realize people aren't hard to read. They're just scared to be seen. In part 1, we talked about how people build false identities to protect themselves. But now, in part 2, we go further, to the places where those identities start to fall apart. Because Nietzsche believed the self isn't a solid thing. It's more like a performance, stitched together to survive. And when it's threatened, the truth starts to leak out. Let's begin here. 7. Most actions come from hidden fear. Why does someone talk too much, dominate the room, or suddenly disappear? Why do they say yes when they clearly want to say no? It usually comes down to fear. Fear of being left out, rejected, embarrassed, or failing. Nietzsche believed people rarely act from pure desire. They act to avoid loss of status, love, or self-worth. So instead of focusing on what someone says they want, ask yourself, what are they afraid of losing? That's where the truth lives. 8. Constant criticism is often projection. When someone always finds fault in others, listen carefully. A man who mocks emotional people might be avoiding his own feelings. A woman who criticizes others' looks might be battling with her own reflection. Nietzsche believed judgment is rarely about the target. It's a reflection of the speaker. So when you hear repeated critiques, don't focus on who they're aimed at. Look at the one doing the aiming. What part of themselves are they trying to reject? Projection isn't just a defense. It's a silent confession. 9. Guilt often wears the mask of confidence. You've met this type. Always in control, always composed. But if you look closely, you'll see the tension, the overpreparation, the defensiveness when challenged. Nietzsche saw this in leaders, teachers, preachers, people who perform certainty because they're scared of being exposed. When someone seems overly sure of themselves, ask, what guilt are they covering up? Maybe they're trying to outrun a mistake or prove they're not who they used to be. Real peace doesn't need a spotlight. So when confidence feels too rehearsed, don't be impressed. Be curious. 10. Exaggeration hides the truth. This one is subtle but revealing. The person who loudly insists, "I don't care what anyone thinks," probably cares a lot. The one always saying, "I'm so happy," might be far from it. Exaggeration is the ego's way of drowning out uncertainty. Nietzsche believed extremes signal imbalance, not strength. So when someone's words are too loud or too final, don't take them at face value. Ask, what are they trying to drown out? Exaggeration is volume, but it's often hiding fear. 11. The need for control reveals inner chaos. Look at the person who needs to manage everything. The one who can't handle change, who micromanages people, who pushes for control in every situation. It's rarely about power. It's about fear. Nietzsche understood this. When the inner world feels unstable, the outer world must be tightly controlled. So when someone seems overly strict or dominating, don't assume they're powerful. They might just be terrified that if they let go, everything will fall apart. The tougher the exterior, the more fragile the person inside. 12. Loud performance hides quiet emptiness. This is one of Nietzsche's most haunting truths, and it's everywhere today. Think of social media, all the flashy updates, perfect photos, and endless self-promotion. Nietzsche didn't see this as confidence. He saw it as desperation. When someone is constantly performing, it's because they fear they won't be loved or noticed for who they really are. So they create a version of themselves they hope the world will accept. But those who are truly at peace don't need to be seen. They already feel whole. So when someone's life looks like a non-stop performance, remember, it's not a sign of power. It's a quiet call for love. Now it starts to come together. You might already feel the shift. You walk into a room, and suddenly the patterns speak louder than the words. You notice the constant interruptions and realize it's fear, not ego. You hear someone brag and sense the wound underneath. You're not reading minds, you're reading masks. And Nietzsche handed you the flashlight. This isn't just a cool trick, it's a responsibility. Because once you learn to see people clearly, you can't go back. And when you do, you realize most people are suffering in silence, hiding behind polished smiles. Reading them isn't about control, it's about compassion. When you see the scared child behind the critic, the fear behind the bully, the guilt behind the confidence, you don't get weaker, you become unshakable. If this part of the video opened your eyes, just wait. In part 3, we peel away the final layer. We'll dive into how deep childhood wounds shape the way people act as adults, how envy, silence, and the desperate need to be remembered all reflect someone's soul. You'll learn the last 6 truths, the ones that don't just help you understand others with clarity, but also help you finally understand yourself. By now, something in you has likely shifted. You're not just seeing people, you're reading them. Not as villains, not as victims, but as human beings doing their best to survive while wearing masks they didn't even choose. But we're not done yet, because behind every behavior is a belief, and behind every belief, a wound. This last section is about seeing the soul, the hidden story living beneath the surface of everyone you meet. Nietzsche didn't just expose people's behaviors, he revealed why those behaviors exist. So let's finish this journey. 13. People don't speak from logic, they speak from pain. You might think people argue with facts and make choices with reason, but Nietzsche believed otherwise. Underneath every logical opinion is usually an emotional wound. Someone might say, "Love isn't real, it's just a fantasy." But that's not a belief, that's protection. They were hurt, and now they build walls using logic. People shape their worldview based on what hurt them. Then they justify it afterward. So if you want to understand someone, don't ask, "What do they believe?" Ask, "What scared them? What hurt them so deeply they never want to feel it again?" That's the real story. When you see this, arguments stop feeling like attacks. They start feeling like self-defense. And you stop reacting. You start understanding. 14. How someone responds to weakness shows their true strength. If you really want to know who someone is, don't watch how they treat people in power. Watch how they treat someone who's powerless. Nietzsche believed true strength isn't about winning. It's about knowing when not to fight. If someone mocks others for being vulnerable, they're avoiding their own wounds. If they punish every mistake, it's probably because they weren't allowed to make any growing up. The ones who always win but hurt people along the way are still battling old ghosts. But someone who can witness weakness and stay present, who forgives when they could judge, that's real power. That's someone who's won the battle inside. So if you want to read someone, give them a moment where kindness is an option. What they do in that moment reveals their heart. 15. When someone fears being forgotten, they chase attention. Ever met someone who always has to be noticed? Every room they enter, every story they tell, every post they share says, "Look at me." It might seem like confidence, but Nietzsche saw the truth. It's fear. The fear of being unseen, of not mattering, of being erased. These people don't create noise because they enjoy it. They're scared of the silence. The child who felt invisible becomes the adult who needs to perform, to prove, to demand attention in any way possible. So before you judge someone for being too much, ask yourself, what are they afraid will happen if they're not enough? Because often, attention isn't ego. It's a silent plea for love. 16. People often attack who they envy. One of Nietzsche's most difficult truths is this: people don't always criticize out of hate. Sometimes it's envy. It's admiration that feels impossible. So instead of cheering for someone's success, they tear it down. Instead of saying, "I want that too," they say, "That's dumb," or "Who do they think they are?" Envy hurts because it reminds us of what we've lost or what we think we can't have. So it's easier to destroy than to desire. But envy is just a quiet wish in disguise, a longing to be free, to be bold, to be seen. If you can spot this in others, you won't take their hate personally. And if you can admit it in yourself, you become free. 17. People live out their childhood, not their values. You've heard it before. People don't change. But Nietzsche would say, people repeat. They repeat the same roles they had to play as kids, the same fears, the same emotional patterns. Someone who was never listened to grows into someone who interrupts. Someone punished for emotions grows cold and logical. Someone who had to earn love becomes someone who performs for it, even in toxic relationships. They think they're making choices, but they're really reenacting the past. So if you want to understand someone, don't just ask who they are, ask who they had to be. Because adult behavior is often just childhood pain wearing grown-up clothes. 18. Patterns are confessions, if you know how to listen. Here's the last truth, and it's the most important. People might not tell you what hurts, but they'll show you. Over and over. The person who vanishes when things get real. The one who stays busy to avoid being alone. The one who jokes and flirts, but never gets close. These aren't random habits. They're silent messages. They're saying, this is how I stay safe. This is where I've been hurt. This is what I'm afraid will happen again. Nietzsche believed that if you really learn to listen, not to words, but to patterns, you'll hear the truth long before it's spoken. And when you do, you stop blaming, you stop judging, you become a mirror, not a weapon. Someone who sees and still chooses grace. That's what makes you powerful. You're not just reading people anymore, you're remembering yourself. Take a second and think about it. Every truth we've explored isn't just about other people, it's about you, your patterns, your fears, your story. Because the clearer you see others, the clearer you start to see yourself. And this isn't the end, it's the beginning of a new way of seeing. Nietzsche didn't want you to just observe, he wanted you to wake up. To realize that everything you judge in others is something you carry, and everything you admire is something you're longing to express. So if this video made you feel seen, if you recognized yourself or others in these patterns, don't keep it inside. Drop a comment. Which of these 18 truths hit you hardest? Let's create something real in a world full of masks. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe. This is just the beginning of seeing what's hidden and becoming who you truly are.